Hello, extra time.
You're going to the league not to get a hug because it damages your reputation. It makes people, when they read it, just laugh at you.
Simple look, they're playing in the League One and they're playing in the Europa League and they're credited in the game in this country. Maybe we should get Stephen Kenny then to manage the Irish team.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Xtime.com podcast. Your host Luke Jordan, guys, and Macdara Ferris alongside me again. Macdara, how are you?
Good, Luke, how are you?
Fantastic. Later on, we hear from Gaxha of Kerry F.C. to hear about their journey so far in the league and his own personal journey for the year. It's a good listen, so listen out later on. But first, we're going to chat about the Irish women's team as we record Wednesday night with a big game tomorrow against France, the big one before they fly out Friday. Macdara, you're going to be at the game. I know this will be out Thursday morning, so we won't chat too much about the preview, but just in general, it's a big game.
Yeah, it is, because I think we mentioned it last week. This has been the focus for Ireland as their warm-up game for their opening game of the World Cup, which is against Australia, who are ranked 10th in the world. France are ranked 5th. So the team that Vera Pauw will pick tonight will essentially be the starting 11 that will be for that first game in Sydney in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, and look, she said like last week, she basically said whoever plays this French game tonight, that's why it's interesting to see what the 11 is going to be, because that's more than likely going to be the 11 that's going to play against Australia. I suppose it's the dust is settled in the sense for the players that I suppose the week beforehand there was very much of who's going to be on the plane. They know who's going now. We know the 3 training players. The players spoke as well to the media the day after, so we've a bit of audio from that as well. Our reporter Dylan O'Connell went to chat to the players, and you're going to hear some of the voices now of Lilly, Denise, but first Megan Connolly. So have a listen.
It does feel a bit real. I think it's still quite surreal. Obviously, we've been here 2.5 weeks already training, and obviously the team was only announced 2 days ago, so it's still kind of only sinking in that we're going to the World Cup. You know, we're on the plane, we're going there. So I think once we start travelling and get there, I think it'll really kick in. But obviously we've never been to a tournament like this, so you kind of don't know what to expect. So I think everyone is just excited and just, yeah, it still doesn't feel real.
Are your family going over the tournament?
Yeah, my family, my mum, dad, brother and sister are all going. So.
You know it's a big when a player leaves Nîmes won the championship.
I know, so we don't want to talk too much about that he's leaving, but yeah, I'm like so grateful. You know, they booked stuff straight away. They were never going to miss it. You know, they were always going to be there. Even if they had to sacrifice their own personal stuff, they were always going to be there. So yeah, it's going to be really nice to have them there watching the games.
And I just like thinking back to last October, you missed the game in Hampton.
Yeah.
What was it like for you watching that on the side? Like where'd you watch it?
I watched it at home with my parents and Luke. And yeah, it was tough, but it was quite a really nice moment just to be able to celebrate with my parents and with Luke, like, because obviously we've kind of achieved it together, like as a family. I think I wouldn't be here without them. I wouldn't be at this point in my career without them. So yes, obviously I would have loved to have been there, but obviously I was still recovering from the ribs, so I couldn't do all that travelling and with the kidney. But I think for me, yeah, I absolutely love being at home and just like celebrating with them. And you know, there was tears, there was joy, but I think, yeah, for me that is a great memory, like being there with them and celebrating, as hard as it was, because my dad is like commentary the whole time and I was just like silence, because you can't do anything watching the TV, like you can't influence anything. So it was just kind of like be quiet until the final whistle. And then obviously Amber done her thing, and it was just like the dog had to be kicked out because he was barking so much, like just craziness. But yeah, it's definitely a memory that I'll always remember. And
like, I suppose I just want to go back to when you first started. Corinthians was the first club.
Yeah.
Like, what was it like back then? Because like, I remember when I was growing up, I have younger sisters. There wasn't that much women's teams in Cork.
Yeah. No, obviously I played with the boys for about 4 or 5 years, like at Corinthians. And then it got to a point where I had to go play with a girls' team because you couldn't play with the boys anymore. Like, they just wouldn't let you. So obviously my dad set up the under-12s girls' team at Corinthians, like put out flyers, put out trials, and over 100 girls like came and stuff. And then he set up this team from, I think we were all like 10, 11, and we went all the way to senior, all throughout Corinthians, like, and he just kept the same team throughout. And yeah, I think without him I probably wouldn't really be here, because he gave me that ability to be able to keep playing when there wasn't that much opportunity, and play local and play at a team and club that I really loved. And obviously I was at Corinthians for over 10 years. And yeah, he was my manager for 10 years, which was nice sometimes and not nice sometimes, because obviously there were some quiet car journeys home after games. But
and like you mentioned, like you're 7 year on the pitch, you play as a midfielder and you play as a defender. What position do you prefer?
It's a tough one, because obviously with the underage, with the Irish team, I played as a striker. With Dave Bell and Dave Connell, I played as a striker, so I'm slowly moving back the pitch. So I don't know what it is, but to be fair, I do enjoy both. Both positions are quite different. Obviously, I enjoy the midfield because I like to kind of cover a lot of distance, you know, being up and down the pitch, being involved in different things. But for me, I take pride that I'm quite adaptable, and I think it helps me in the team, being able to play different positions and being able to fill in if players are injured or if I'm needed somewhere else. I think it's kind of stuck with me in my career so far. So I do like both. Obviously, midfield is my most known position, but I'm kind of turning into a defender now, so I'm getting there.
And like I suppose I said this to Denise as well, like you're quite versatile. Like, did you play any other sports when you were growing up, or was it just soccer the whole way up?
Well, I played Gaelic football growing up. To be fair, I've done loads of sports. I've done loads of different things that really kind of helped my athleticism, my fitness, my everything. You know, I did ballet, I did swimming. Like, I think we're quite a sporty family, so we always just done loads of stuff. Like, I do think the Gaelic football stuck with me, like doing a lot of, that is quite a different fitness. But yeah, I just played loads of sports growing up, and I think it's stuck to me to this very day.
Officially here for Ireland, it was a long process.
Yeah, it was. So my mum had told me to do it so long ago, but it was one of them as well where I didn't quite know how I would get into the Irish women's team, because you know what football's like. You kind of need to know someone to get involved and pass through. And then I was talking to Sophie Perry, who obviously used to play for Ireland, and I spoke to her and she said, Lil, do it, So I'd started my process, and then with COVID and so on, I think it took a little bit longer. I think maybe 2 years or so, roughly, going into the full process. But yeah, as soon as that had gone through and I was eligible, it was a great feeling. And then to go in for my first camp at Dublin was brilliant. And then after that, to go to Sweden with the girls for the first kind of qualifiers and be involved in that was really fantastic.
And I suppose when you scored that goal last September, then against Finland, like when did it click with you to kind of like, I just scored a goal with Ireland through to the playoffs?
Yeah, honestly, it's been such a whirlwind for me. I have to pinch myself, because I've gone on a journey with Ireland where, like I said, I've gone from coming into the squad, essentially, I didn't make the squad on my first few camps, to then coming in and being like, God, yes, I'm in the squad this time, I've got a shirt, I've got a jersey, to then coming on as a sub, being like, God, I'm getting more and more involved, which is amazing, and then starting a game and so on. And like the whole process of the journey I've been on to then scoring a goal and really being a part of the team and helping the team on this journey is so important. And I think I work as hard as I possibly can when I'm on the pitch for Ireland. I want everyone to see that I wear my heart on my sleeve and give my all, and I think in those moments of scoring the goal it kind of sinks in, and I think seeing the girls and how much kind of they warm to me and how welcome they've made me feel, it's such an incredible journey to be a part of.
Like going back to when you first started with United, like did it ever enter your head that you could be playing at a World Cup?
It was always, from a young age I always had that in the back of my head. It was always a dream of mine to play in a World Cup, and I always believed that we could do it. I was always so driven as a kid. Football was everything to me, and that's all I wanted to do. So, but now that we actually are going, it's a bit surreal. And I said it to the girls last night. Only at that event, it was really starting to kick in. Just the buzz around it and seeing everyone there, our sponsors and all the young girls in Ireland jerseys. It's just really great to see, and we're very excited.
What is your advice for, like, I cover a lot of games locally in Cork, like you see the amount of girls now get involved in the sport. Like, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think like just first of all, I know it sounds really cliche, but like work hard. I think that's so important, and I just think as well, like surround yourself with good people. I think that's really important as well. And there's always stuff you can improve on. You're never going to be great at everything, so I think just go out every day, give it 100%, and keep working on the things that you can be better at.
Yeah, because it's quite a story, and I suppose just like thinking back when you first started, you were Cork City women in the National League. What are your memories from back then?
Yeah, I mean, it was phenomenal. That was a starting point for me. I think being with that team at the time, I was actually under Dave Bell, who was a massive influence in my career with the Gainer Cup squads and stuff like that. But playing with those girls, I played with Megan Connolly. It was just fantastic, and that's where I seen my development keep going up. And after that, I think then it was time to move out of Ireland. I think taking that next step was very important for me, and I finally done it, and I went over to Glasgow. Yeah.
And then last October in Hampden, when did it actually sink in that you're going to the World Cup?
It's sinking for a very long time, honestly. As I said, it's only starting to feel surreal now because obviously the girls have been in camp for the last 2 weeks, and I was with my club team, and I'm the captain of that team, so my full focus was trying to be on club, but always in the back of my mind I was thinking about the girls are in camp, and I was kind of stressing out a bit and a bit anxious that I wanted to be here. But now that I'm here and being at that event last night, the squad has been named now, and this media obviously is fantastic as well. So it's all just starting to kick in now that we're going, and it's very soon.
So one last question: if you flew in on Monday, was it?
Flew in Monday morning, yeah.
How do you feel the energy?
I think I'm used to it now. I mean, I've been doing it for the past 7 years, so it just comes natural to me now. I can't say I'm always fresh. I do feel tired when I come in, but it takes me a couple of days, and you just get the energy from being back in with the team, honestly. That's what gets me through it.
I know you played in Australia before, now you have experience going over there, how to cope with the time difference and the pace, not the pace of football, but I suppose the conditions over there. Yeah,
I played there twice now. I've been there for 3 months at a time, and luckily we're going in the winter time, so it's not going to be as hot, so that'll suit us. But look, it's a World Cup. There's going to be every team that we play against is going to be high level, so I think we're ready for that, and it's going to be a massive challenge. But I think this team is the growth we've had over the past few years has been phenomenal, and I think we'll be really ready.
I suppose the last week, Macdara, funny enough, hasn't been really centred on the players since the squad's been picked. It's been very much on the manager. We know the Athletic ran a piece about Vera, which is obviously the allegations that came out in the news back in December. They've kind of come up again. Reading the reports last week, what's your initial thoughts on it again?
Yeah, there's not too much new in this from December. I'll probably go back to December because there was a media briefing one of the weekends in December, and I went. It was supposed to be a briefing with journalists who kind of covered the women's team and the qualification, more relaxed setup. But it was the weekend after that report, the NWSL report was issued, so it actually turned into. It was an hour of question and answer where Vera Pauw answered every question about what was in that report, and she repudiated what was in the report. This Athletic piece had maybe a couple of newer bits. There was allegations of kind of a physical confrontation where she put her hand on her shoulder. There was elements about body shaming, which had been in the previous report as well. So there's nothing necessarily new about it, and Vera Pauw has vehemently denied what's in there. So I wasn't at the pre-match press conference, which was on Wednesday there. But I listened back to elements of it, and she denied it all, and she answered all the questions. It was about a half an hour long. There was only a few questions about the football. Katie McCabe kind of sarcastically said, "Thanks for asking us about the World Cup" at the end as she went out. But it was right that these questions were asked, and it was right that the questions were answered. It didn't seem like she ducked from any of the questions, and whether it draws a line in the sand, we'll see now. They fly out on Friday morning. They're going to do press, obviously, after the game this evening, but it'll mostly, I would imagine, be about that game. And then the next press that they do will actually be out in Australia. So I don't know whether there's much more you can kind of say about it. The timing isn't great, but that's when the Athletic put the piece out. It got more eyes on it, and in relation to how the press conference went on the eve of the match, the press had to ask those questions, and Vera Pauw answered them.
Yeah, and for people just maybe aren't aware, that the Athletic ran a piece. It was abusive and belittling or women being direct to Vera Pauw at the Houston Dash. Just sent us back to the NWSL scandal from 2018, and that came to light there in 2021, I think it started to come to light, and Vera was obviously named. I thought it was interesting, we were kind of chatting about it off the air, that you know, she kind of made the point that some of the stuff that's been thrown at her around, say, for example, the players being overweight, or the case in being, saying like if this was a male manager, and she name-checked Jose Mourinho, she name-checked Pep Guardiola, and I forget, I think the third manager, I can't remember off the top of my head, but said if these managers were doing this, there wouldn't be an issue, essentially. You know, we were saying, I think the incident with Calvin Phillips back in January after the World Cup, Pep Guardiola openly just called him fat. I remember those videos from the terraces rather, and you can imagine the chance that were coming from fans having a go at Calvin Phillips. So it is interesting to hear throw that back to the press, saying, will this be a big issue as a male manager? It's hard to argue.
Yeah, I think you think of the managers, the alpha male managers. You know, you have different types of managers, but you think of those ones. Jose Mourinho probably being a prime example. Like one of the things that Vera Pauw has emphasized about, it's not about weight, but it's about body mass and muscle. She talked about preventing injuries, and actually certain players, if they've too much muscle, so she doesn't want our players to do gym work and build up certain muscle, because they're more susceptible to injury, and particularly ACL injury is what the discussion is. So she does micromanage their training, but she was pretty adamant. It was like, I don't want to know. Like, I've never asked what players' weight was. I don't want to know that. Like, that's she was pretty strong on that. But yeah, you kind of think of certain managers who are kind of shouty managers, ones that kind of thump the table, and the pretty kind of be an aggressive style, and is done because they're male managers. And would a female manager, like, I think she's spoken herself that she's from the Netherlands, and Dutch people can be quite straightforward and blunt. And once that's within the boundaries of acceptable behavior, well, then that's fine. And you kind of expect that of a manager. They kind of have to be ruthless. But we saw last week, she didn't. It was not an easy task for her to pick her 23, because she knew she was leaving players behind who were going to be heartbroken, that had contributed to getting to the World Cup. So she's not we saw she's not a cold individual, but she's disciplined and ruthless when she needs to be, and is certainly saying that she hasn't overstepped the mark in her behavior, even if there are allegations that say that, which aren't on the same scale of some of the other elements in the NWSL, which was obviously were some elements about sexual abuse. So this is very much different, and that can be very serious, in relation to eating disorders and other things as well. So I'm not belittling it, but it is different from some of the elements. Like, we've got, Sinead Farrelly is in the team. She'll probably play against France this evening, and has had to resurrect her career. Can I say maybe her life? After the abuse that she suffered when she was playing in America. And so that's the kind of the different scale of the allegations that have been put towards Vera Pauw. Very, very different from that around what Sinead Farrelly suffered. So I think it's worth saying that.
Yeah, I think just for balance, I suppose that Vera, when she was over there, spoke about the kind of nearly a death threat she received from the article. Like, said, like, near midway through this, I think it's 2018 season, she spoke about how her husband, who's also coach, Bert Van Lingen, went over with Dick Advocate, who'll be well known to football fans, managing Premier League, managed Rangers, went over to visit her for a couple of weeks, and said after 5 days that they're taking her home because she was being threatened by a certain member of staff, because if I get this right, she shifted training sessions from the morning to the evening, and the coaching staff wasn't too impressed. This was affecting his daily beer, and said, I'm going to shoot you in the head if you don't. The training session's back in the morning. So again, for counterbalance, like this was also an allegation that she spoke about that she received from a certain member of staff. So again, like, I think she wrote in the piece, or she wrote the Athletics, something along the lines of, it's okay, you writing about players need protection from coaches, but what about coaches need protection from players? So again, it's not clear cut. It seems to be different stories coming out. So it's very hard to draw the line on, who's telling what. And so again, we have to be careful in terms of, what we say. But I think from all angles, I think my personal opinion on this, when it came out the other day and we were chatting, obviously on WhatsApp, whatever, it's disappointing that it's coming up now again before the World Cup. The timing of it is kind of disappointing. I think, last week it was a tough week for the national team in terms of letting 10 players not going, and that kind of dominated media. And the last week now, it's been very much the case. This is dominating the media. I mean, Katie McCabe, like I mentioned, cut a very frustrated figure with kind of a jibe comment saying, great chat about the World Cup guys as she walked off. So again, let's hope now when we get to Australia and the press conferences aren't kind of around this issue too much longer, because I think people want to get on the football. It's my own personal opinion.
Yeah, well, when Ireland played the 2 friendlies in America earlier on in the year, there was kind of an expectation there might be more about it, and there actually wasn't that much, which was interesting, because essentially Pauw was banned from coaching in America at the minute, and she's talking to her lawyer about the elements. But I suppose when the football came around in America, it was more about the football, and I think ultimately that's what will happen when they land in. They'll be their training base is in Brisbane, and they are playing a friendly against Colombia. So yeah, I think the focus will move unless anything else comes out.
Before we move on from the Irish team, what's a good result, or what you'd expect to see tonight? Because obviously when people are listening, it could be maybe the Friday morning they get a chance to listen to the pod. So from your own expectations, what are you expecting to see? Are you just expecting to see a good performance that we know we can compete that level, or is a result paramount, or what are you hoping to see?
I don't think a result's really paramount, because Ireland under Vera Pauw has taken on games and friendly games against high quality opposition and have got some good results. One of the turning points was probably that 3-2 win over Australia, which kind of ended quite a long run of successive defeats. So I'm sure the Ireland coaching team were looking for a performance, looking for a shape, looking to see how they defend against a really good team. France won 10 out of 10 of the qualifiers, and with Hervé Renard on board, they've kind of dumped their controversial coach that got there, that had fallen out with a number of players as well. He's experienced a win in the men's African Cup of Nations. He is French manager, but won with Zambia and Ivory Coast, and of course was managing Saudi Arabia in the last World Cup in Qatar, and the only team to beat Argentina at that World Cup. So they're really high quality opposition. So I suspect France will win. They haven't played since April. This is their first game since then, and they beat Canada in a friendly back in April, and Canada in our group as well. And they'll have won. France have won. They have won friendly game when in Australia they're playing Brazil. So they'll be taking it pretty seriously if they've only this game and the game when they get to Australia. They're playing Australia. That's what it is. Yes, so they're playing Australia in Melbourne. So they're taking it pretty seriously. They're playing the hosts. It'll be interesting to see the results in that game as well. But so they'll be coming looking for a result this evening, and I think they'll probably get one. We've played France 10 times, going back decades now, and we've lost 9 and drawn 1. And we've only ever scored 2 goals against them. So yeah, it's a tough game, but that's what they want. There'll be no there's no fear in this team. They like taking on high quality opposition, and they've done really like in the last qualifying campaign. If you look through the playoffs where they had to go against higher ranked teams, when they drew in Gothenburg. So I'm looking forward to, I think I said it last week, to see Sinead Farrelly play, because it's expected that she will do, and that'll give us a signpost for what the team will be against Australia, and just to see how we get on against this high quality opposition. Like we did well against the USA in those 2 friendlies, played in big stadiums, trying to get used to that as well. So people will be listening back now on Friday morning, and we'll see whether they're right or not.
Are we sticking with our 11 from last week? Is that going to be?
Yeah, I was trying to pick it last night, and I was just looking at who else might be in the team. But I think we talked about it'll be Heather Payne and Katie McCabe as the wing backs, and then Nephi and Louise Quinn. So just, I don't know, it might be Dawn Caldwell or maybe Megan Connolly as the third centre half, and then Sinead Farry will play, Denise Sullivan will play, Kyra Cruz will play, Marisha Shiva will play, because Shiva's just they weren't the American-based players weren't available. Those, Denise Sullivan wasn't available the last time, so they'll all play, and maybe Lily Ag, maybe Reese Littlejohn. So they're probably the one or two players that'll come in, and then they'll use all the main subs that they're able to use for this friendly game. The one they play against Colombia, they'll use more than a lot of games, which is a reason why it's not going to be a full international. So expect there'll be some changes probably at halftime and definitely an hour into the game.
Yeah, just to remind people of our 11 we picked Rebecca Cray last week, and we haven't listened to last week's pod, do listen to it. It's very interesting. It's very good debate. So Courtney Brosnan, Niamh Fahey, Louise Quinn, Megan Connolly, Heather Payne, Lily Ag, Sinead Farley, Katie McCabe, Denise Sullivan, Kyra Caruza, and Marisa Shiva is what we went for the starting lineup against France, which we would believe then would be the starting lineup against Australia in Sydney. And fun fact, I got a ticket for the game. There you go. So I'll be at the game now, which I'm delighted to announce. So I'll be there for 2 games out of 3.
Can I ask how much the price value of the ticket was?
Got it for €18.50 in euros. I think it was 30 Australian dollars.
So only €18 for, yeah. So you're probably up in the gods, but it doesn't matter. But that's great. That's great price, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know where I would have stood anywhere. Would have stood in the gantry if I had to, didn't mind where I was going. As I got a ticket for the game, like 82,000, like we were saying last week, is brilliant. And so I have 2 of the 3 tickets sorted now. So whether I decide to go to Perth or the purse strings allowed, can I go out to Perth for that game? That's to be continued. But anyway, coming next, we have a chat with Gaxha of Kerry F.C, so stay tuned.
Get in touch. You can email us at extratimelive@gmail.com or tag us on Instagram using the hashtag League of Ireland, or tweet us at Extra Time News.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the second half. Tonight to have Gaxha of Kerry FC. Leo, how are you?
I'm all good, thank you.
Started the game last Friday. Just chatting off air there. You gave Galway a good run for money there. Tough game.
Yeah, look, we knew it was going to be a tough game, especially from the first time we played up there. I mean, it wasn't good enough for us, but we went up there this time, and I thought we really, really did well. We pushed them right to the end, and I think we should have got something from the game. If it wasn't for Clarkey pulling off 2 unbelievable saves, I think, we probably could have got a draw, if not a win. But I think, it was some of the best football we played as a team this season, and it showed how much we've improved from losing 9-1 up there to 1-0 and putting in a performance like that. But I mean, it just shows how far we've come as a group and as a team and as a club.
Yeah, that 9-1 game, I suppose, stands out. When that game happens months ago, was at the moment you as a group kind of said, right, this is the level we have to try and aspire to, and now looking at the result there a few months later, only losing 1-0 last week, to show the progression you've made. Yeah,
of course. I mean, after that 9-1, it wasn't just a scoreline, it was just everything in the game. They were much more physical, they were much more, they were just like, they ran all over us, to be honest, and we kind of just felt like we were just completely out of the game, and we said to ourselves, look, we know we're not a full-time side and they are, but if we want to aspire to become a good football club and play good football, we've got to at least close the gap, and I think we have. You've seen from the game the last day, 1-0, and it could have been a draw or even a win, you know what I mean? So it just shows how far we've come and what we're trying to aspire as a club.
When did you first hear about the Kerry project? Who approached you?
I heard about it, well, I was over in England. I'd heard about it for quite a while, and I always thought in the back of my head, like, even though I was at Sheffield United, it'd be good. I'd love to play for Kerry one day, and I didn't think it'd happen this fast, but I just had heard about the project, and obviously I knew it was going to be tough to start, which it is for any club that's just been formed. But I said, if I can come in here and help and get the club where it wants to be, there's nothing better, especially because I'm from here as well. So I was on board straight away.
For the people listening, even players maybe listening as well, what's the experience like joining a newly developed side? Like I can imagine it's very frantic in the background trying to get everyone ready for the first game of the season.
Yeah, it was. Look, I missed it. Obviously, I wasn't here pre-season with the boys. I didn't know how it went and stuff. But when I came in, you could see that things were trying to be done right, and they were trying to escalate things. And you could see that everyone that was involved wanted it to kind of get there as fast as possible. But I think as a club, we're just moving in the right direction and taking it step by step. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a new club. Things, obviously along the way, it's going to take time and stuff. But I just think, as a club, we're moving in the right direction.
What are your memories from the first game, the Kerry competed, the Tuna lost to Colby? Because it was a big crowd there in Kerry that day. Yeah, it was a big crowd. I mean, it was packed. I played there as a kid and stuff, and I've never seen that many people there, and it was great. I mean, it was one of the nights, I think, for Kerry football. It probably should have happened a very long time ago, but it was great. And even other games at home, it's been packed and sold out, and it just shows the support we have down here. I mean, the results haven't been what we've wanted them to be, but when you see people turning up and getting over 1,000 people nearly every home game, it just shows that in the future, we will progress as a club. Yeah, and you kind of touched on as well there, because I've been a local lad as well. It probably means that tad more to you in terms of maybe driving you on to get the club up, I suppose, like up the league. Yeah, of course. For me, a loss hurts, but I've heard, for me anyway, it hurts more because I live 5 minutes down the road from the club, and I want this club to get as high as it can, and if I can help along the way, and I will, and for me it's like every game we go into, it's like, we're playing for the club, but I've got my family, I've got my friends, everyone that I've grown up with coming to watch, and if we can get them results, it'd mean a lot to me, but obviously it'd mean a lot to other people as well. At the start of the season, did the management team or as players, did you set objectives, or just kind of as simple as, look, let's take it game by game and see how we get on? No, look, we obviously set objectives. I mean, you have to as a team, and we know that we've not been hitting them as of now, but we've still got loads of games to hit our objectives. And for us as a group, it's, as I said, consistently performing at a good level and playing good football, which glimpses this season we have shown. I mean, you say, people can say what they want about the results, but if you watch us in certain games, we do play good football, and it shows that. I mean, our average age, I think, is 19.7 or something like that, and we're a young team. So but again, we're a young team. But as I said, there's a saying, I think it's if you're old enough, you're good enough, or something like that. And for us, it's a great opportunity for us young lads. I mean, when you're 20, 19, 18, and you're playing men's football, there's nothing better. Yeah, I suppose it is a very young side, and in terms of having that management team of Billy Denny there as the head coach, it does help as well, having that experience of playing at a high level in this country and playing abroad. It must help the players there. Oh, 100%. I mean, he's played at the highest level in this country, and he's played in Europe as well and stuff. And for us, we're always listening, always learning, and he's a good manager and a good coach, and he's doing the right things by us. He's trusted in all of us young players, and I'm sure that we'll pay the faith back. In terms of you always been a local lad in Kerry, what was your local club? Was it Tralee Dynamos, was it? Yeah, I played for Tralee Dynamos, and then I played for St. Brennan's Park as well. They were my two local clubs. Played with them all the way till I moved to England. I was 15 when I moved over. So yeah, played for both them clubs. In terms of, I suppose it's interesting to get the perspective of a player who's kind of maybe on the last kind of conveyor belt of who went to England at 15. How do you look back at that experience now going over to young age? Like, do you get kind of maybe looking at the younger players now going over 18, 19? If you were to look back, would you say I prefer that, or would you change anything, or do you think going over 15 is still well? Do you want me to be honest? I think going over 15 had its pros and cons, but I think, you see the lads that are going over 18 now, a lot of them lads have played in League of Ireland senior level, and I think when you've got that behind you going over there, I genuinely think it makes it not easier in terms of, you're going to get straight into the first team, but you've got that first team experience and you know what it takes to get there. I went over at 15, and as I said, I moved from Tralee, to Sheffield, and it was a big difference, but it does kind of make you into a man quicker as well, which I felt. But look, it's got their pros and cons. I mean, when you go over 18, you're a bit more mature. You know what to expect. I was 15. I didn't even finish school. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, look, it works both ways. I think pros and cons in both. And how does the approach then come about from Sheffield United? Was other clubs sniffing around the time, or was just Sheffield United all the way, or how did that go when you're 14, 15?
Yeah, like, so I'd originally agreed to sign for Burnley. That's what I was going to sign for, and then we ended up playing Sheffield United in a match when it was over there, and ended up scoring 2, and I didn't think anything of it. I was still set on signing for Burnley, and I got a call off Travis Binion at the time, who was the academy manager. Said, "Look, just come over and have a look. You don't need to sign anything. And look, if you don't go over and have a look and talk to people, you'll regret it in the future." And I just said, "Yeah, I'll come over." And from as soon as I walked in the doors, I just said, "Yeah, this is the club for me." Just felt warm, the warmth from the people there. Just felt like the club was moving in the right direction, and yeah, it was the decision I made and my family made, and look, I still stick by. It was the right decision.
Yeah, and for people listening in, I suppose you went over to Sheffield at a time where they were a Premier League team for a couple of years, and they're on an upward curve. Chris Wilder in charge. It was John Egan there, and the Stevens. So, what was it like being around a Premier League academy at that time?
So when I first moved, my first year scholar, they were still in the Championship and they got promoted, and I seen how the levels changed of when they were in the Championship to the Premier League, and even our training sessions and the way we played at the academy level. We had to kind of go into another gear almost, and especially the first team that year when they were in the Premier League, like finishing 9th, I think it was. It just shows the levels how you need to change, and they did unbelievably. But it just, from Championship to Premier League, like, the club just changed like that in the space of a year, and it was really good to see. And obviously, you become a better player from it as well.
Yeah, was there much interaction between, say, were you playing with the under-23 or would have been 21s at the time? 23s?
It was 23s at the time. I played 23s since I played a bit in my first year scholar, but as soon as my second year started, I was in the 23s from I think a month or 2 into the season, and then obviously I was doing quite well in that year, and then COVID hit and the season just voided then.
Yeah, as much when you're playing the 23s, do you have much interaction, say, with the first team? Is there days where you pop in maybe to make up numbers in the session or join in, or is it very much a case of 23s one side and the senior team?
No, at Sheffield United it was mixed. I mean, when a number was needed, I'd go up and train. I think a lot of us, that was the good thing. A lot of us got that experience of going up and training with the first team, and even we'd go up and kind of do shape sessions with them and then help them out and stuff. And it was good. It was good, and we were interactive with each other, and we got to know each other and stuff. And I think a lot of clubs should kind of be trying to do that, because it helps you as a young lad. Like, I was 16, and I remember going up training. I think I was 16, my first session with them, and it was an eye opener. And it just helps you, it benefits you massively.
Was there much Irish in the academy at the time, or in the 23 team at the time?
Yeah, there was. When I was a scholar, now there was. So they had Stephen Mallon, David Parkhouse, and Jordan Doherty when they were in the 23s when I was a scholar, and they were great lads. And I speak to them. We actually lived together for a year. So there was Irish lads there. And when I became a pro, I think then they kind of moved to other clubs.
And I suppose it's different for every player's experience gone over. Some people settling well, others don't. Yeah. How did you find your own? Like, were you able to settle in? Did you get homesick, or how did you feel when you moved over to England?
The first few months was, I didn't get homesick. I actually enjoyed it and stuff, but it was kind of hard to get to grips with that. Just living in a bigger city. I mean, there's over nearly 1 million people living in Sheffield, and for me, it was just a complete different experience. And I got to grips with it pretty fast, to be honest with you. And I just enjoyed my time over there. I wasn't homesick. I loved living in the city. So it was great.
It's a bit different being from the countryside, Tralee, to Sheffield, you're saying?
Yeah, it was completely different, man. It was just little things like public transport. There's no, like, here in Tralee, everything's walking distance. Over there, you have to take a bus to places, a train, and it was just mad.
When did the international call-ups happen? Because obviously, with your Albanian background, you kind of played with Ireland, played Albania. So, like, how does the international call-ups come, say, for one national team, and then is it Albania on touch after?
Yeah, so I played with Ireland under 16s and then a bit under 17s. And while I was with the 17s, I just got, I think it was a phone call or an email at the time. I think my dad got one. And it was a representative from the Albanian FA, and they just said, like, look, we know he's playing for Ireland, but would he, be interested in coming and playing for us? And to be honest, I just said yes straight away, because for me, like, look, you're young, you can play for both nationalities and you can play for both countries. And I just said, again, it's just an experience that you might not get again if you say no. And I went over there and we played 3 games. We played Macedonia, Romania. I can't remember who else we played, but I loved it. I really enjoyed it, and I just thought, it's an experience I'll have with me for life. And the lads were good. The setup was good. It was much different to Ireland, but both very good setups.
Yeah, and what's it like for, I suppose, an Irish guy playing for Albania? I suppose it's more happens the other way, where we get players maybe declaring for Ireland from other countries. What's it like for an Irishman to go over and play for the national team? And like, in terms of, say, obviously you be somewhat used to the culture, but you lived here in Tralee. So what's it like for, say, going to the dressing room, maybe different cultures, different language? Like, what's it like?
Yeah, it was different. It was the first day or two I was a bit, I wouldn't say shy, but all the boys over there are all speaking Albanian. I can speak it fluently and stuff, but it was just weird coming from Irish. I was playing in England and I'd not heard my language being spoken like that. Everyone speaking it, and the manager at the time had a rule, which it's a good rule. He said no English. He said just Albanian in the camp, and he caught me speaking English. I remember it, and he had a go at me, and he just said, "You're here in Albania. You're not in England or Ireland." And it was good. I loved it. The boys were great, and it just showed different backgrounds. Different clubs they were playing for in Europe, and it was amazing. I remember the game against Macedonia. I think there was a couple thousand people at it just for an under-18 international game. You know what I mean? And it just shows the level that country wants to get to for football as well. Yeah, it was weird because there was a few other lads that played in England, and we kind of sat together and stuff and speaking, and he just said, like, yeah, speak Albanian. And even in the games, I found myself speaking Albanian in the games with the boys, and it was amazing.
In terms of, say, nationalities, then was it just one switch, or are you still eligible for both countries?
I can still play for both. I think now, to be fair, now that I'm 20, obviously I can still play 21s and stuff, but I don't know what it works like with the under 21s if you have to pick and stick with a nationality. But look, obviously at the minute I'm playing club level and I've got to do a lot of work to get them call-ups. But in the future, I do believe if I do get them call-ups, and it's obviously something to think about. Yeah, and look, I suppose in terms of like own background, having a mixed background, growing up with a Albanian heritage, and Ireland, as we know today, is a much more multicultural side than it was, say, 30, 40 years ago. Did you experience much difficulties growing up in Kerry, obviously with parents of Albanian descent, or was it just fine? I did. Look, I'll be honest, and it's good to be honest, especially about these things. I did. I mean, I didn't. Look, obviously people like their own to do well, and which is understandable in certain aspects, and I just felt like maybe the opportunities I had weren't the same as everyone else's. I had to kind of work a bit harder, but that was fine because it just made me spur on even more, and it made me work even harder. And look, obviously when you're playing Sunday League at the time, you might get certain things said and you don't like it, but it's good to just ignore them, especially in this day and age. We're in 2023, and I think it's something that needs to kind of get out the game and just get out of life generally. I think wherever you're from, you should be involved in any sport you want to play, and that's the way I see it. I look at everyone equal. Yeah, and I think most people, all people, should agree with that kind of line. In terms, look, going back to Kerry before we finish up, in terms of the season itself, like what was that first win like when you got it under your belt after a long wait? Yeah, it was great. I mean, I felt like it was a long time coming, and especially in that game we were 2-0 up, and they got it back to 2-2, and I just kept saying to myself, I was like, we'll get another chance. And I remember the ball broke to me on the right hand side, and I just said, right, before I'd even whipped it in, I said, this is a goal here, and we ended up scoring from it. And I just knew that the luck was on our side that day, and you need luck sometimes, and it was fantastic. I mean, for all the work we've put in, especially as an amateur side, for all the work the coaching staff's put in and the owners are putting in, I think it was well deserved, and I do believe we're going to get more wins before the end of the season. I've no doubt about it. And us as a group, I think that you'll see a lot more from this group from next season onwards, and even for the remainder of this season, there's definitely much more in us.
Let's touch on the amateur side. Actually, probably should have mentioned earlier. What's the kind of the big difference you might notice in the pitch between, say, playing Galway, playing Waterford, and yourselves? Is it fitness, or is it just experience, or For me,
For me, it's experience, because fitness-wise, I mean, we do run a lot, especially we work hard in training and stuff. I think it's just experience. I mean, especially when they're full-time training every day, and I know what it's like being full-time. Your levels are through the roof, and and then obviously the budget they have is it's much bigger than ours. And but I mean, look, in football you can have all these things and you can be full time and have a bigger budget, but at the end of the day, it's 11v11, and for us it's about being competitive, as competitive as we can in these games. And I would say the experience and just the if you train more together as a group, you're obviously going to be a better team. And I just think with Galway and Waterford, they're a full-time team and they're training and they've got a bigger budget. But I think, you've seen 2 games we played against them away, we were right in the game. So I think for us as a club, we're growing all the time. And I honestly think the limit is, there's no limit for this club. I think we can go all the way.
Looking ahead for the next couple of games, 2 months derby's coming up, obviously the league Friday night, and then a couple of weeks time, then the FAI Cup game, Kerry's first ever game, the FAI Cup against Ringman Rangers. Something to look forward to.
100%, yeah. I mean, we'll welcome them down here, and we'll be ready. We don't underestimate anyone. I said that when the draw was made, I was getting asked questions like, up in Dublin, it's an easy draw for you. There's no draw that's an easy draw in this level. So we'll have full focus on them. But first, we've got a treaty here on Friday, and our main focus is on them.
But hit your first score prediction for the game.
I don't give score predictions, but I hope you guys see a good performance from us, and we'll do everything possible to get that win.
Talking like a true professional there, Leo. Fair play to you. Thanks for coming on, Leo, and chat again soon.
Perfect. Thank you, buddy. Cheers.
And there's kind of a lot of grumbling about maybe we don't have enough Premier League players, but in terms of the Championship, But
what's the point in grumbling about it?
But the
step I can't hold about it, can I? If they're not playing the Premier, what's the point of me grumbling?
The step up to international football in the Championship, is it easily managed?
Well, I tell you back there when we played in 2002, what's the point of me grumbling? We had lads who were all at the bottom of the Premier, real scrapping away, Kinse and Matty Holland, and I had Gary Breen, who hadn't even got a club. What's the point of me grumbling? So I don't subscribe to that. You just, whatever it is, whatever I've got, I'll get them together and make the best of them and try and make sure we qualify. Grumbling is not one of the things I do.
You can subscribe to each new episode of the ExtraTime.ie Sportscast on iTunes. Please give a rating or add a comment there to let us know your views.
Welcome back to the third half. Macdara is still alongside me. I suppose maybe just a quick chat before we wrap up the show. It was funny, we opened the show last week in terms of saying the title race was possibly over. I was kind of just, poking at you to give an answer, but that was kind of the general conception, maybe the title race was coming to an end. Rovers were pulling away. It's amazing what a week of football does. A loss against Dundalk, Pats win, Tump, UCD 7-0, and now it's all about St. Pat's in the title race. So that's how football can change right there. How quick it can.
Oh yeah, well, there's all. I think I said there's always going to be twists and turns. Like Shamrock Rovers weren't going to win every single game before the end of the season. I still think they'll win the league, and they go into the European games, top of the league and a number of points clear. And if you'd said that at the start of the season, I think everyone around Rovers would be very, very happy with the position they're in. I think they've been helped by other teams not being consistent, but they're 4 points clear of Pats. And even if Bows win their 2 games in hand, they'd still be 5 points behind. So, but yeah, it was a pretty tight game up in Dundalk. But Rovers certainly didn't deserve to win the game. But Dundalk scored a couple of quick fire goals, and probably deserved the win in the end, because Rovers didn't do enough. And they now Rovers go to Drogheda now on Friday. They haven't beaten them in 5. Drogheda have 2 wins and 3 draws, but and then they'll move quite quickly on to Europe. So they're playing the Icelandic champions Breiðablik at home on Tuesday evening in Tallaght Stadium before the away leg in Iceland the week after, which I'm travelling over for.
What's interesting actually is you mentioned it was a tight game in Oriel Park. I obviously I was reporting the game for extra time in the past UCD game. I'll come back to that in a sec, but when obviously when you go home, before you go to bed, you have a quick look at the other fixtures online. You have a look at the highlights, which is great because obviously with LYTV they go out very quick. And the Dundalk highlights was just all Dundalk highlights. There was no, you'd swear Shamrock Rovers were defending for 90 minutes of the game, which is, again, maybe it's a slight area we need to improve our highlights package on, because like I've read the reports that the game was tight. There was Rovers chance in the game. You were there, Macdara, for the game?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So there was Rovers chance in the game, because going by the highlight package, it does seem like Dundalk were endless in their attacks, and there was 8 minutes of a Dundalk basically attacking and Rovers just defended. That's the highlight package shows.
No, it was there. I did look at the. I looked at the XG on Wyscout, and Dundalk were ahead on the XG, but I had a look at the shots on goal and the shots on target. I can't remember them offhand, but Dundalk had the higher number, but Rovers definitely had shots on goal and definitely had a couple on target, but they must have missed out in the highlights package.
What's funny about Dundalk is, maybe just touched on them, is that going back 4 or 5 weeks now when I spoke to James Rogers, and they were kind of just drifting in mid-table. He described it. They're not going down, not going up. And you look at their form the last 5 games, 4 wins, could have beaten Pats if Daniel Kelly puts that in the net last second. That's 5 wins on the bounce. And now they're sitting in 4th place, 39 points. I think, again, it does show this league this year, right? Albeit Rovers have pulled away, which they probably should have, because what that poor start party has them still in the pack. But it's the tightest league in terms of second to, say, even maybe 6 with Shells, because they have 2 games in hand still. Like, it's so tight that you can't call who's going to end up in the European spots. It's incredibly tight, like I said.
Yeah, teams are taking points off one another, and that's making it quite entertaining. And yeah, teams can go on, like Dundalk's unbeaten run, I think, is that 5 or 6 unbeaten, and they've kind of put themselves in a position of strength. But yeah, they're still 7 points off top of the table. So, but yeah, very, very tight for those European places, and some big clubs are going to miss out depending on who wins the FAI Cup as well, because that can open up that 4th place, but which has traditionally been the way in the last good few years. But they will have FAI Cup action towards the end of July, and Dundalk play Shamrock Rovers in Oriel Park in that. So all the 4 European teams all have FAI Cup ties on the Sunday, because the matches have to be kind of moved in between European games, which doesn't make it very easy.
Pats then briefly, so that game 7-0, honestly could have been 10 near the end. I suppose maybe comment on probably UCD first. I wonder, the league's on the right path in terms of professionalism, and I think that shows with the competitiveness of the league. I think if you go back, if we were doing this podcast 7 years ago, it was just Dundalk, Cork. It was just, and everyone else, even Rovers, were just smiles off them. And it was very much Dundalk come first, Cork first, Dundalk second, Cork second, and no one else taking points off them. And they were way clear. I think, albeit Rovers did ahead of the pack in terms of their squad, but it does show that teams now in that middle pack can take points off Rovers. It's I think this great Dundalk team and that good Cork team as well, we're in the league now. I don't think the tie race will be so clear cut. I think teams will take more points off them, which shows probably it is a more competitive league. But on UCD, like I said, I wonder, will this be one of the last times you see them in the league? Because you look at the first division and you have teams like Waterford and Galway now professional. I imagine doing more teams looking to go professionals down that Aspire to get into the Premier Division. I watched them Friday night, and I can honestly say it's one of the worst forms I've ever seen from a team. And I know it's hard to say because they are very young, but I'm talking about like just basic footballing errors at the highest level in this country. And I look and going, I know they're missing players in terms of players left over the year, and because that's the way their system works, scholarships end and people leave. But it was just extremely poor. So I just wonder, when they inevitably go down this year, it could be tough for them to get back. Yeah, it could be tough, but the issue is that someone has to get relegated. So even if Galway are coming up, even if Waterford do come up, so UCD are going to get relegated. Waterford win the playoff. Are they going to beat Drogheda, who are the other essentially part-time team? But Drogheda have a couple of points ahead of Cork in a minute. So
the issue is then somebody will get relegated the following season, and are UCD good enough to win and get promoted out of the first division? And they probably are if the first division doesn't improve. And I think the first division is more likely just to be teams that are going to be part-time. But somebody has to get promoted out of it. So I wouldn't rule them out of coming back up again. And I'm going to use the word ramshackle, but when they were in the Premier Division before their last spell, and then were relegated when Collie O'Neill was manager for much of that season, and then they got a hiding in one of the games, and O'Neill left, and they did get relegated. I think Bows beat them. I think there was a 7-0 there as well. Like they were heavily beaten in a number of games, and that was a few years ago. I think we're kind of seeing that this year. Like they've only won the 2 games, and I think it's 13 points behind Cork. So there's only, I think they've got 14 games left. Yeah, so like it's not practical that they're going to escape from that position.
Yeah. I'm past them really quick. Mason Media, youngest ever goal scorer in the league, 15, just at his junior cert. I don't think myself as an old man, but when I hear someone's doing their leaving cert and they're scoring goals in the league round Premier Division, it's quite something else. Yeah, no, it is. Like as a 15-year-old to come through, like, and we've talked a little bit before that the young players coming through, and are they physically able? But he seems to be, and like you've seen him play, like he's a physically developed. I suppose boy, he's still only 15, but he is so he came off the bench in that game. Do I have that right? Yeah, 30 minutes to go. The game was there was still 3-0, and Dady made a triple change, and immediately was 1-0. Yeah, and I think that's really, really kind of sensible management. That you're giving them some game time and that was in a match that they had won at that stage, and they're playing against UCD, who are a younger side, not in his age bracket, but plenty of teenagers and players in their early 20s as well. So whether they can hang on to him, whether he'll go, because he can't leave until he's 16, when he can go to countries in the EU. So whether he'll go there, or whether he should maybe just stay with Pats, where he will get game time as he gets a bit older, and then that gives him the opportunity to play men's football over the next 2 and a bit years before he could go to the UK if he wants to at 18. Yeah, and that's why I was even interested in chatting to Leo this week, in terms of he's probably on the last conveyor belt of players that went over at 15, 16, going over to the UK. Now we have the Mason Medias, the Sam Kerrs, Adam Murphys, the Justin Farzais. We've all these players now playing in the league, where obviously they would have went over to England straight away at 15, 16. Yeah. I know we spoke about the benefits in the podcast over the years with Gary Dicker and other players. I just see it as a positive. I think it's great that I understand that you are getting a higher caliber of coaching, say at Brighton, with under the tutelage of Gary Dicker or those academy coaches, but there is something we said though about you're 15, you're scoring your first league goal. You know what the feeling's like. You're Adam Murphy or Sam Kerrs playing minutes. Justin Farzai played in Europe last year. Like, you can't replicate that in an academy. Yeah, no, you can't. But it's the contact errors, it's the quality of players you're training alongside, and the quality of coaches. And some really good academies. Pats have been really successful winning underage titles, but just as importantly is bringing players through into their first team. And ultimately the model is to sell them on. If they're that good, you want players to play at a higher level, and no one wants to see players kind of held back. I think fans of any club, they really want to see young players come through into their team, and if they're really good, to go on elsewhere and have a very successful career, and hopefully play for the senior team. And there's great pride there's a great pride at Bohemians seeing Evan Ferguson. There's great pride at Shamrock Rovers seeing Gavin Bazunu, who was
don't know how happy Southampton would have been seeing him wearing Umbro branded Shamrock Rovers gear during the week when he was doing the boot room initiative, where he donated €5,000 worth of boots to the Rovers Academy. They're trying to make sure that boots are available to their younger players. But anyway, yeah, there's great pride with players come through, and if you take Pat, some of the underage players that say played with the played at under 21 level or played at the recent underage tournament as well, where there's, you know, the bulk of the squad was made up of League of Ireland players, and you're hoping that they'll go on to make the grade at senior international level.
Well, I think Sam Kerr definitely will. I know I'm completely biased because I've been a Pats fan, but he's such an excellent player. But, you know, we were hoping at the podcast next week out Monday, Tuesday, because obviously I'll be shipping off to Australia, so we're going to try to get out early.
No, not literally. You're not like a convict.
No. I'm not like Michael in the fields of Baton right now, but but I am going off. So just in case we don't get the episode out before Tuesday, hopefully we will. But Rovers in Europe, do a quick preview on that. Go. What are you expecting? Is getting to the first round the expectation of Shamrock Rovers?
I suppose it is the expectation, because, and there's a lot of pressure on it, because if they fail at this round, they won't get to the group stages. You'd have to win another 3 knockout ties after this. They play the loser of Ferris and KI in the Europa Conference League second round qualifier, should they lose this first round in the Champions League. But if they win it guarantees them another 3 ties. It essentially gives them at a very minimum a playoff to get to the group stages, depending on where they get eliminated. The Slighting champions are definitely a higher step up in opposition compared with Hibernians of Malta, who Rovers beat last year and got them on the road to Europe. They then got to the playoff round of the Europa League and lost, and that essentially got them through to the Conference League group stages. Like this, they won the league. Breidablik won the league last year. They were runners up the previous year. They've a team full of Icelandic internationals, not any kind of current in the squad, but some of them that have played. The 2 Faroese internationals, but they've got a bit of European pedigree in that they got to the they knocked out Austria Vienna 2 years ago. They went 3 rounds in Europe the last 2 seasons, so they've got experience of playing matches in Europe. They beat it was the Andorran team home and away last year. Then they beat there was the Podgorica team. They beat them as well, and then they lost to I can't remember who they lost to. And then the previous year they won home and away against San Marino team, beat another team, and then lost. I think it was maybe to Scottish side. But and then they've also got the benefit of playing this mini tournament last week, where they played Tuesday semi-final and thumped the San Marino team, and then played the Montenegrin team again and beat them. I think it was 5 or 6-0. There was Rovers fans booking flights at halftime in Oriel Park because they were up 4-0, I think, at halftime, and people were buying flights. But so they've got that experience, and people probably seen ESPN, is it Michael Ogden, did an article on that tournament. He was also interviewed, not to plug another podcast, but he was on LOI Weekly.
Oh, Mark Ogden, yeah.
Mark Ogden, sorry, yeah, Mark Ogden. So he travelled.
Yeah.
Yeah, he travelled out there, met Stephen Bradley and Steve McPhail, who went out on the Tuesday to watch the semi-finals. So that's really beneficial to this team. So I saw the captain quoted in that Mark Ogden piece. He said it's kind of 50-50. And I'd rate Rovers' chances a bit higher. So they got the first leg at home. The Rovers' record at home last year was brilliant. They played 7 games at home. They won 5 through 2. They only lost 1. That was to Molde. That was the only game they lost in Tel at all last season. So their home record is really good. So what they're hoping to do, obviously, is to go out like they did against Hibernians last year and win the first leg at home. That was 3-0, and then they just killed the tie away from home. So, but these guys are a step up. I think that European experience over the last couple of years and also in the last week will benefit them. But like, it'd be really, really disappointing if Rovers did lose this tie. But we'll see how they get on Tuesday. The expectation is that they will go through, and again, that just opens up the opportunity to maybe get to the group stages, which is no easy task. Whoever wins this tie will play Copenhagen in the next round, and I don't foresee Copenhagen losing that tie. So then that would drop the team into the third qualifying round of the Europa League.
Yeah, it's I suppose the task made a bit tougher because obviously the injuries, like Manus is obviously out long term. Trevor Clark was announced last week; he's out long term.
Trevor's out long term. Manus is training now. Actually, Leon Poles has played really well. Do
you think Manus play on Tuesday?
Well, I don't know. They might be keeping it kind of under. They might be keeping it under wraps. I don't know. They don't want to risk it, and then if it's a reoccurrence of the injury and he's out for a number of weeks. But this might be a game where they might just continue with Leon Poles in goal. And I think back to when Gavin Bazunu had the jersey and Rovers signed Alan Manus and he could play, and Rovers went down to play Cork City. And you mentioned earlier on they were the top side in the league. We're talking about 2018 here. I think I'm right in saying, and Manus could have played, and Stephen Bradley kept Gavin Bazunu in the team. He saved a penalty that day, and Rovers got a draw, and he only came out of the team. And when Rovers went to play in Europe, they played in Stockholm, and they again, Bazunu had the jersey, and Stephen Bradley kept him in, and it was only Bazunu got injured in that game that Manus came in, and that was the last games that Bazunu played were in Europe. He didn't get back in. So Poles has a jersey at the minute. I kind of think maybe he might continue through the next few games. But Manus is obviously he is a better keeper, and everyone knows that. But it's the risk versus reward for bringing the goalkeeper in. Clark is out for like another couple of months. He had to have an operation.
Vernon Ferrugia,
Ferrugia not as serious as thought, and it was a case of he kind of knows his body and signaled just to kind of come off. I think there were no way they were going to play him on that AstroTurf. Same with Jack Byrne, he wasn't going to play on that AstroTurf last week, and particularly with Byrne being instrumental for Rovers, particularly in Europe, where he really is so essential. He's a standout player in every game for he plays, but particularly in Europe. So I think you've kind of those players to come in, but they've a big enough squad. Like Lee Grace has been out for a while, but I don't know whether. Yeah, maybe I did mention it last week. Like Stephen Bradley wrote in the match program about how he made too many changes in Europe last year, that he disrupted the side. So
that was quite an admission.
Yeah, so because he wrote about it, was in Phelan Warren did an interview in the Shamrock Rovers program, and I was quite surprised by it actually. I wrote about it in Extra Time because I thought it was an admission because it allowed them to win the league. So. But they have this big squad. It means they can't. He doesn't have a first 11 probably that you'd play every week. He's rotating his back three, but you'd play Rory Gaffney probably ahead of Kenny. If Ferrugia's fit, you'd definitely play him ahead of maybe Sean Kavanagh. But if Gary Neal's available, you play him. But whether you play Marcus Poom, like Dylan Watts came back, he played against Dundalk as well. But they've a squad good enough to deal with a couple of absentees. But you definitely prefer to have Ferrugia and Clark available. And Clark certainly isn't going to be available until probably August, maybe September, from what the club are saying.
Yeah, that is a huge blow for Rovers. He's been very good since he came back in. He thinks he's won Player of the Month as well. He's been instrumental really this year for them on that left. And look, hopefully Ferrugia's fit for the games. But as a general point, actually, for the European games this year for all the League of Ireland teams. It's very important again. We do progress in those rounds, because the better our league coefficient is, and I think people need to realise this. I hear the odd time online that it's not about your league your coefficient; it's all about your club coefficient. If the League One improves, it means you might say, for example, get European or Europa League spot, which means then if you're second place gets the Europa League spot, means if they get knocked out, they get a second bite of the cherry in the Conference League. So it's really important that.
I think it's more that the cup winners, potentially, if we can improve, would not enter the Europa Conference League qualifiers in the first qualifying round, that they'd enter in the second qualifying round, and then that would give a team a potential of getting to the group stage. You could win kind of 3 ties in a row. I just think it's just too difficult to win 4 ties in a row. Now the league, Rory Higgins was kind of giving out about having to play Shamrock Rovers in Tallow the other week, but they've freed up 2 weekends for teams to play, so they've taken out league games around these European fixtures, moved them earlier on in the season, just to allow, like Shamrock Rovers play on Friday in the league, and they don't play another league game in July, and they've to squeeze that FAI Cup game, and Rovers play a week earlier than the 3 other teams that are playing in Europe, and they're all at home in the first leg, which is really beneficial. But so that would be the benefit of it. I think for us to get into the top 22 where it really makes a difference, I just don't think that's realistic. But the draws that we've got, potentially you could see for all 4 League of Ireland sides go through. I think they're probably favourites for all of the ties. And then you're looking at the second round. Some of them are better than others, and I think the fact that they've got the home leg at first, I think is probably beneficial. I think I mentioned earlier on about Rovers' excellent home record in Europe last year. A lot of that was on the back of they played first legs away from home and got heavily beaten, and I think that's probably worth saying. They were well beaten by Ludogorets, they were well beaten by Ferencváros, and then they won the second leg at home. But I think the draw has been favourable in terms of opposition, and also that all four clubs will play the first leg at home.
Yeah, that got flashbacks last year's podcast, Ferencváros. I remember I couldn't pronounce that for a long time. Before we wrap up, just you were in Northern Ireland last weekend. Do you want to talk brief about the Glentoran game?
Yeah, I went up to the Avenir Sports Cup All Ireland League, not All Ireland League, and the match was played. Shamrock Rovers were playing Glentoran. But actually, as I said last week, I thought it was actually dead rubber because Wexford won on Saturday evening, so Rovers didn't have anything to play for result-wise. But I did speak to Collie O'Neill afterwards, and he tinkered with his team formation for the first time, so it was kind of a 4-2-3-1, I think it was, that they played. And so the game was in the Harlan and Wolff Welder Stadium, so they played in the second tier of the men's league in Northern Ireland. A nice little stadium. The Oval, I think they're doing up the pitch because it's the off season, so the Glentoran women were playing there, but it probably suited to play in that stadium. So it's got like a stand behind the goal, not quite as big as the one in Cliftonville, and that's where the press box was, so that's where I was. And then there was like a covered terrace on one side, which would be not quite as big as the mono stand, and similar covered seated area on the far side. An Astra pitch. Asked Colin Neal about it. He said it was lovely. He said it was a fantastic stadium, was what he said, and it was a good Astra surface. Kind of no complaints on that. But Glentoran they're top of the league there. They played 10 games, won 9, drawn 1, unbeaten. They're packed full of Northern Ireland internationals, including there's a couple of standout players. Demi Vance was particularly good. She's ex-Rangers, ex-Leicester City. It was a really good game. Rovers won 3-2. They played Stephanie Zamber made her first start since March, and Shannon Cody was the standout player for Rovers. I think she's maybe only 19. She scored 2 goals, set up the other one, and it was a really good game. The semi-finals are this weekend, so Cork are true, Wexford are true, Cliftonville are through, and who am I missing? Galway are through, I think it is. I hope I have that right. And I was asking Collie O'Neill what's he going to do with the Shamrock Rovers team, because their next game isn't until the last week of August. So I suppose they probably presumed or hoped they'd be getting through to semi-finals and maybe the final. So they're training for the next couple of weeks. They're going to play friendlies. He didn't say who they were against. I didn't ask though. But they're going to play a couple of friendlies, and then he's given his side 2 weeks off where they'll be fully off, and then they'll be coming back in August and doing kind of a mini pre-season. Because it's a very long break. It's not like the break that we had in the Men's League of Ireland, which was also in and around the internationals as well. But most teams would have taken a week off. I think it's probably quite difficult. Whereas the men's First Division and Premier Division teams, they kind of had a week off and then they came back training, and really that was fine. But I think it's going to be quite difficult for teams in the Women's League of Ireland that there is this long break. I think the likes of City and the Galway team will probably benefit by playing in this competition. But yeah, it was nice just to go to a ground I hadn't seen before and see a really good game, because Rovers had played Glentoran pre-season, and they were beaten in that. So I think they were looking to get a good result and just to see how the formation worked, and also to bring some of the younger players in. Obviously Abby Larkin and Anya O'Gorman weren't involved. So yeah, I think the cup competition has been beneficial for all the teams involved.
Yeah, and I just said he caught up with Collie O'Neill after the game. Let's have a listen.
Collie, you must be delighted going into this break with the win against a very good Glentoran side.
Yeah, they're a really, really good side. But again, we just use it as an exercise. We changed the shape today to have a look at something different. We just worked on it during the week, so from bits of it came off. So yeah, it's a good learning. I'm
pleased with the goal. Shannon Cody got 2 goals, did very well, and Melissa O'Kane.
She did well. We could have had a lot more again, but it's only their first week working on the new shape. So yeah, no, it's all positive.
You played Glentoran pre-season. Since then they've done really well in their league. They were undefeated in the league, 9 wins. So yeah. A lot of senior internationals from Northern Ireland team. So a great match for you guys to come up against this team.
It is. It's a great test, but that's this is the level we want to be at week in, week out, and there's still an awful lot more growth to go on ours. We are building that framework. We're not fully there yet, but we're still going in the right direction.
And you got a reaction from last week in Wexford. Like, you knew coming up, there was plenty to play for, but you knew you couldn't get through, so you wanted your team to,
we wanted a reaction out of last week. That's important to us. And again, result, I didn't care what the result was today. The majority of what I wanted today was attitude, application, and you were trying to take on board what we were doing during the week and put it into use. And they did that for us.
You've quite a long break now. What's the plan? The next competitive game is until the FAI Cup.
No, we'll do a friendly for the next 2 weekends in a row. So we're not going to stop until the 16th.
Yeah.
You'll get two full weeks off, and then we'll be back. We'll do a kind of a mini pre-season leading into our next competitive game is the FAI Cup, actually.
And the break, it gives the chance to players to get away, a mental break as well from all the football as well?
It does. It's a mental break as well as the physical one. They've done a lot of hard work, and they do deserve that break. So, but for us, it's only a pause, and we want to come back bigger, better, stronger for the second half of the season.
And just with Rovers, 2 players in the Women's World Cup squad, I know everyone's going to be looking.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's absolutely brilliant. And I think it helps that they're part of a professional environment.
Yeah.
That it helps towards when Vera is looking for professional players to be part of that team, that what Rovers are doing is the right way in doing it.
Yeah, and it's the club captain Anya Gorman, who's played so many times for Ireland, but then also Abby Larkin, only 18 years old, coming through. So it's actually a really nice thing to be able to have these players involved.
It is, and I know a lot of people will be saying about Anya because she's 100 and something caps and she's been doing it year after year, but for us, she's one of the best players around at the moment. So it's even on current form, she fully deserves to be there. And Abby is Abby will light up Tala week after week. She is an absolute breath of fresh air, and she's the kind of person that you would happily pay to go and watch play. She's brilliant.
Just one thing, I was up in Dundalk on Friday night, not a great Astro pitch. This one looks a pretty decent surface. What's your thoughts on the...
Yeah, it's a lovely little stadium.
Yeah, it's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, really nice, yeah.
And it's nice to see new things like this being built, and it's something that you would hope for the transfer to the south as well. This is where we need to go. It's this extra development. This is lovely. It's nice.
Just on the break before we finish up, can you imagine Damien Duffy was given out about 1 week off? Can you imagine having 6 weeks off? I don't know how impressed to be over that.
Yeah, and that's because that's what I had in my mind, because it's like it's 7 weeks off for their next game, and they're playing Colester Donegal for Rover. So yeah, but what I think with there are some full-time professionals in the women's league, but I think we're talking about kind of around the 20 mark. So lots of players are working and playing. So it's a bit different from the men's team, where yes, there are some players even at the full-time professional clubs that are playing, or some of them are studying or whatever. But the vast majority of players in the Women's National League are doing something outside of playing. You know, they're training in the evenings 2 nights a week and maybe 3 nights a week and playing at the weekend. So yeah, it is a bit different from Damien Duff's.
Did you find out the answer to my Blanchflower question? The name Glentoran?
Oh yeah, it is named after them. Yeah, named after Danny Blanchflower. Yeah.
There's for anyone's listening who agreed with me. There you go. The answer was correct. It was after Danny Blanchflower. Okay, quick run through the fixtures in the SSC Electricity League this weekend, starting with the Premier Division. Bohemians Dundalk, Drogheda Shamrock Rovers, St. Patrick's Corksey, UCD Shells, and Derry City Sligo, all Friday night kickoffs. And in the first division, we have Cove Ramblers Galway, Wexford Lone Town, Kerry Treaty, Waterford Longford, and Finn Harps Bray, which is all on Friday. Macdara, are you going to United Park or Weavers Park or Hunky Dory's Park on Friday?
I'm going to all three. Yeah, I'm traveling up. Not reporting on that one, but yeah, I'll be in the terrace watching that game.
I shall be reporting from Richmond Park, so that'll be my Friday night sorted. And hopefully another win for John Daly's Army as they close in on Macdara Shamrock Rovers. But we'll leave it there. Macdara, thank you.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks to Leo Gaxha for coming on too, and we'll chat to you all next week.